Rhythms and I'm pretty good at placement, but it doesn't hurt. You're right.
Oh,
I got it. So can I address it to the yeah.
okay.
No, you know what?
That's funny if you were having any
Honestly, no. Like, I'm the worst girlfriend ever. It's my boyfriend's birthday, like, tomorrow. And I was gonna make him this cake, like a 3-layer cake, whatever, it's his favorite. And I forgot. And like, this is all I freaking have.
I mean, I'm kind of in the same situation. I'm trying to meal prep for the week. I'm broke. Bonds is closed. And this is about all I got. That sounds like it was stuck. Just wait a second. Are you seeing what I'm saying?
Banana bread.
Dude, we got
Let's
this.
do it.
Hi guys, I'm Madison.
And I'm Kate.
And today we're going to be presenting on Habit 6, which is the principles of creative cooperation.
also known as synergy throughout the chapter. So overall, Covey defines synergy as meaning that the collective whole is greater than the sum of its parts. As you just saw in our little banana bread example, and as you see on your sheets, each of the ingredients on their own has value, meaning, and serves a purpose. But when we brought them together and collected our efforts, we each got something out of it that was greater than the whole. So we each got banana bread, and we each solved our problem.
So it's really, synergy is really the culmination and the manifestation of all the habits that we've talked about coming together. So having a background and just having an understanding in each of the habits is really important in order to achieve synergy.
So ultimately and operationally, synergy recognizes and values differences in order to build and strengthen relationships, ideas, and trust. It catalyzes, unifies, and also unleashes our creative potential.
What I really loved about this chapter is Covey's use of diction. He uses and repeats a lot of key words that I think are really crucial to pay attention to. So after reading the chapter, I just went ahead and identified 5 key words and phrases that I think are imperative in order to unlock your ability to synergize and create synergy with others. So as I go through them, I would just encourage you to either star or maybe pick one that you think you really want to focus on and work on, and then bring that word or phrase and implement it when you're interacting with your family, your friends, your peers, classmates, things like that. So to go right into it, to communicate synergically, you need, number 1, personal security. This is a little bit like confidence, but it's more of an internal confidence. So it's rooted in internal principles, internal values. It's rooted also in integrity. So it's something that comes from within. It's something that you've already practiced and established within yourself, and it's not reliant on other people think of you, other sources, outside sources. Number 2, courage. It takes an enormous amount of courage to be able to step out and to take a risk. Synergy often happens spontaneously, and it can result from communicating synergistically is really just kind of unpredictable and just kind of happens. You never really know what can happen when you're pursuing something creative, and so just being able to just step out and take a risk and being able to collaborate with others is really important, and this takes a lot of courage in order to do this. The third one, which I think is probably one of the more important ones out of all of these, is vulnerability and authenticity. This is extremely important, but really difficult to do. If you've ever watched any of Brené Brown's podcasts or TED Talks, or even read Brené Brown, she talks a lot about vulnerability, and so I think you can understand how important it is. So it really takes a high amount of courage and risk to be vulnerable. Covey in the chapter uses words like authentic and open, but I summed it up as vulnerability. And this really allows synergy to take place and for creativity to flow. Number 4 is open-mindedness. Here, the ability to listen well matters, just kind of like we covered before in Habit 5. It's really important to come to the table and have a willingness to listen, to hear others' opinions, to hear their thoughts, to hear their perspectives. You might not like all of them, you might not understand all of them, but it's important to be able to make an effort to listen and understand, and that can really go a long way. Number 5, I love that Covey touched on this, the spirit of adventure. If any of you have seen Up, you know what that is. So it's when you're motivated to put yourself out there and see what can happen. You have hope that something better can be created. It's really embracing the unknown. It's the potential, it's hoping for the potential and having possibly a better outcome. Some spontaneity in life is really a good thing. So just remember, adventure is out there. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and transfer it over to Paige, and she's just going to go over some key components that are covered in the chapter.
Yeah, so Covey outlines a couple key essentials to achieving synergy. As aforementioned and touched on by Madison, this incorporates the understanding of habits 1 through 5. And this just isn't just the understanding of them, but it's the culmination and the daily practice of them. So you have to be able to implement each of the habits. So putting first things first, beginning with the end in mind, proactivity, thinking with a win-win mentality, and listening empathically. So essentially, we're not all going to be perfect at these, but ideally we should be trying to incorporate each of these components or each of these habits into our communication and our teamwork. The next key component is valuing differences. Often in team scenarios, we kind of come into it with a mindset of like this colorblindness, where the first thing we want to do is find our strengths and find our strengths that we have in common and really focus in on that. Covey stresses more of the importance of understanding and valuing our differences, and not just our different strengths, but our weaknesses. In doing this, we're able to see the broader range of what we can achieve and what might challenge us. So, essentially, this can help us problem solve better as issues arise and, in essence, prevent these problems from arising and basically divide up tasks according to each other's strengths. The next key component that Covey talks about is understanding the middle or the third pathway. So Covey outlined this through the visual representation of a triangle. So on one side, we have my way. On the other side, we have your way or their way. So generally, people come into it with the mindset that you can achieve what I want or we can achieve what they want, which is essentially the win-lose or lose-win mindset. Often we think of the third option as compromise, which would be placed in the middle between these two. In compromise, both parties are giving and doing a little bit in return, but ultimately both of the parties are left not fully satisfied, not feeling like they had all of their needs met. Covey talks about the importance of recognizing the middle as a higher option, so the apex of the triangle. So ultimately, in this, both parties are investing a lot, but they're getting out of it a lot more than they put in. In addition to this, he also talks about it in the frame of this equation. So compromise is seen as 1 + 1 gets 1.5. So like I said, both parties put a little bit in and get a little bit more out. Whereas the middle, or this third option, which is higher, is seen as 1 + 1 equal 4 or 8 or 16,000. So both parties put in fully what they want and get out infinitely more than what they put in. Both parties have their needs fully met. And then finally, if you look on the bottom side of your sheet, the final component is levels of communication or communicating synergistically. So if you look at the bottom of the graph, we see that there's defensive communication. This is where trust and cooperation are at their lowest points. We also see that both parties come into this with the win-lose or lose-win mindset. So parties are communicating defensively. They're not open and honest about what they want out of this situation of coming together. If we move up the continuum, we see a little better form of communication, which is compromise, which we've just talked about. Here, both of the parties are communicating respectfully, and they're a bit more open about what they want, but they're still pretty reserved and they're holding back. So trust and cooperation are higher here, but they're not at their full potential. They're not being completely authentic or vulnerable. If we move all the way up the continuum, we finally see synergistic communication, where trust and cooperation are at their highest levels. And this really comes with that win-win mindset. So here, both parties are completely honest and vulnerable. In addition to that, they understand what the other party is looking to achieve. So they've listened empathically, they understood what each other's end goals are, and they come together to meet both of those goals, and ultimately more overall. So now if you guys turn your sheets over, you'll see that we have an activity laid out for you guys to engage in. So for this activity, we'd like you to take a couple moments to reflect on a time that you experienced synergy in your life. Or you can reflect on a time that you would have liked to, or feel you really should have experienced synergy, and you didn't. To help you with this task, you can ask yourself and take note on these couple questions. So, what was the situation, event, or circumstance? Who were the people involved in this? And what were you feeling or experiencing during this? Ultimately, what was this experience like for you overall? So go ahead and take a few minutes to write and reflect on those questions. Also, these were meant to be lines. They printed out funky. If you want to make them patches or bullet points, you can do that. But writing it however it works for you is great. If you're struggling, that's okay. It can be the most simple of situations or complex. The important thing is just connecting with either of the experiences.
I'll give you guys a couple more seconds to think about it. Finish your final thoughts. Let's go ahead and bring it back. Would anybody like to share what they wrote down or an experience they had?
I came in the kitchen with one. One of my friends is better cooking like the meat and stuff, and I'll do the vegetables. So we work together and we make a meal.
That's good. That's a good example. Anybody else?
Anyone else have an example where it just didn't click? There was a lack of synergy?
My example's kind of both. So sometimes in our workouts for track, there's like, you run as a pack, and so sometimes that pack's working together really well, and like people are pulling, taking turns, and moving the group along and pulling each other through. And then sometimes there's that lack of synergy, and it kind of splits and breaks off, and everyone seems to start doing their own thing instead of all working together.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
I have an example I could give actually. So, for my job, we have to work as a team. Teamwork is incredibly important in order to create really effective service. I work for the Honor Bar. And there was a particular Sunday, we were down a server, and we were so slammed, it was ridiculous. It's probably the craziest Sunday I have ever worked. For whatever reason, people were just really excited to come to the Honor Bar. So we felt incredibly overwhelmed. We felt the pressure. But for some reason, we all just focused on communicating really effectively We had really open communication. We were all helping each other out. And in the end, we created probably the most effective service we've ever experienced or had. We all walked away with a smile on our face, even though that was just like the craziest thing we'd ever worked. And customers were also walked away incredibly happy, and the managers even noticed it. So that could have gone really poorly if we had focused on how stressed we were. We had focused on ourselves, but we would have only focused on what we needed or wanted and make our tables happy. But in the end, we made the whole restaurant happy, including the people that walked out really full. So that was my synergistic experience. Totally good.
I have an example too that kind of touches on both. On the separate stage. It was last year, the GSAC championship match for tennis. My doubles partner and I were playing our number one position, and we were playing the number one doubles team in the country. And they're also like our rival school, our rival opponents. We'd had 2 matches where we like barely lost to them, super close. So before coming into it, we really outlined what we wanted to accomplish, you know, what our goals were tactically and technically on the court. In addition to that, my doubles partner is my best friend in the world. And as the season had gone on, we'd gotten a lot closer. So we came into the match with a clear plan. And like I said, this team's really good. So there are definitely struggles. And usually when we would get down or frustrated or try to just reevaluate a technical situation, we went towards it with encouragement and, you know, figuring out how to charge the other person. We ended up beating them for the first time, and it was awesome. Like, it was the best experience. And then our team went on to win the championship match and win the whole tournament, which was like a huge highlight. And that was awesome. That unexpectedly ended up being my last match with my doubles partner. She actually ended up quitting. And since then, like, I've appreciated that match so much more. So I'm playing with a new doubles partner who's amazing, and she's great. But that communication isn't quite there. We're not at the point where we're vulnerable enough with each other to know what our strengths and weaknesses are effectively. And we haven't had much time to incorporate playing together. So it's been great,